So hello everybody and welcome tonight. We're honored to have Mrs. Veronica Esagui here tonight, Dr. Esagui, and she's going to talk about her book, which she's going to be releasing here shortly, called Mary Celeste, The Solved Mystery of a Ghost Ship. And I don't know if you know the Mary Celeste. I always heard about it when I was a kid and as I was growing up, and it's an interesting mystery, and many people have come up with their own ideas as to what happened. So I'm very excited tonight to see what Veronica is going to tell us. And so with that, I'm going to give the microphone to her, and we're going to be all set. And I would ask that if you have questions to ask, we're going to get the microphone to you so that you can, so that when you ask the question, it goes into our live stream, which is happening right now on our YouTube channel.
Thank you, Todd. Whoa, my voice is loud. Good. I can speak softly, and yet I sound loud. That's good. So oops, here we go. I want to thank Riley, my granddaughter, who is my assistant today, sitting right over there. And I won't have her stand up, but she's wearing her great-great-grandmother's dress from the 1800s, 1872. And the reason I asked for that is because that's when the story happened. Oh, somebody's telling you to stand up. Sure. Thank you, Riley. Okay, well, we're going to get started. And I just want to tell you that I am so excited to be here. I can't express it more than saying, Yahoo! Here we are. And so I'd like to share with you the story of the Mary Celeste. And I truly believe that when I read the preface, which explains like a little bit about how it all happened, all your questions may be answered right then and there. But I'm going to get started, okay? Since coming to the United States in 1963, I faithfully wrote every week to my parents in Portugal until they passed away in 1996. 4 years later, I found myself longing to write once again in Portuguese, my native language, and I began eagerly looking on the internet for pen pals in Portugal. I still had one family member in Portugal, my brother Max Leão, but he hated writing. So mid-spring 2000, I was delighted to receive 2 responses from the north of Portugal. One from Paula, a lady who looked forward to chatting with someone in the United States, and the other from a widower who was having a difficult time after losing his beloved wife and needed a friend. He wrote that his name was Fernando, but he signed Artur Barros. Paula was happily married and had a 10-year-old son. She and her husband owned a very successful frozen food company. And our writing of 1 page or less was mostly about our daily lives and what each day brought along, much in contrast with Artur's emails, which could be 5 to 6 pages long. He was the kind of a guy that felt that society's morals were lacking, and he loved his deceased wife, whom he considered a saint. I sensed he was going through some form of emotional hell after losing the love of his life. And being that he had been born in 1948, I presumed he was an old-fashioned man trying to find his way in a modern world. His website presented him as a writer, an artist, with several published books, paintings, and ceramics. And I felt extremely privileged to have a Portuguese writer and artist so interested in what I had to say. He called me a prolific poet after he read my description of a spiritual experience I had as a child when I encountered an old broken-down brick wall with tiny pink roses sprouting from its innards. I told him my mother was a famous Portuguese poetess who was featured in the Dictionary of Famous Women, right along with Mother Teresa and Queen Elizabeth of England. But I knew nothing about writing poetry. Still, I thanked him for the compliment. For Christmas that year, I received from Paula a card and 3 romance novels by well-known Portuguese authors. Arthur sent me pictures of himself with Leonardo, his grandson, and his house and office, as well as the latest book that had just been published, The Mystery of Saint Eulalia. He also sent me a request. Since I know that prior to being a chiropractor, you were a music teacher, I would be very happy if you could write the music for the lyrical poems I have enclosed. Yours truly, Arthur. I was glad to do that for him, since it sounded like fun. I also read The Mystery of Saint Eulalia from beginning to end, just in case he asked my opinion, which he did. I didn't want to hurt his feelings, so I told him I had found it interesting. A kind word I learned from a friend who used to describe something dreadful without hurting someone's feelings. Early spring of 2001, I received Art's Encounter of 2000, a Portuguese anthology of poetry and short stories, which included Arthur and 17 other authors. He must have liked my story of the roses more than I realized, because he had put his name as the author of Roses on the Wall. As you can see, he wrote, I simply rearranged your writing into a format of shorter lines and thus became a poem. Now you know you can write poetry. Odd way to teach, but I accepted his explanation. It took me a few months, but I finally finished writing the music for Arthur's lyrics. I wrote the music on staff paper, made a tape playing my acoustic guitar and singing, and mailed it to him. He kept mentioning in his emails that he was planning on rewriting the Bible, which to me, right, exactly, it sounded like reinventing the wheel. Until one day, he piqued my interest when he told me about a manuscript he had started a few years back about the Mary Celeste, an American ship found near the Portuguese islands with no one on board. I wonder what happened to the crew and passengers, he wrote. You're the only one who can help me finish this book. I can't think of anyone more creative than you, and it would be a great honor if you would consider writing this book with me as co-author. Well, I was thrilled, to say the least, and the first thing I did was look on the internet for Mary Celeste. And I found out. 1872, to be exact, November of 1872. Mary Celeste was an American brigantine ship that left New York Harbor on the way to Genoa, Italy. And when they found the ship, about 2 weeks later, there was nobody on board. The captain, Captain Briggs, his wife, their little girl, the crew, the passengers, everybody had disappeared. So I asked him to send me what he had written, and I would see what I could add to it. I received attached in Word the file Mary Celeste, and he wrote, I can see from the email you sent me that you already acquired some knowledge about the ship. That helps a lot. Here are some of the ideas I have for our book. Feel free to explore them, like how to get the passengers and crew transported to a different world, but where? Another planet? Another universe? I don't know which to choose. I also don't know how to define the transport used. I only know that it has to be something completely new and different from what we are familiar with. Possibly a door is open to that world where sometimes humans get sucked in. I created a sailor named James. He's a bit of a rebel, but yet the most educated and clear-headed. I believe that description needs to be explored further. There's also a young Italian sailor, Luigi, who suffers, from terrible problems, and that can help add some drama to the story. There's another sailor who spies on the captain and his wife, but I didn't have a chance to introduce him or the others into the story. But the idea is for you to use those characters to create romance, jealousy, and hate toward the captain. I don't have much of anything else to say, since that's when I stopped writing, except for some more thoughts I had, but I didn't write them down. Oh, don't forget to come up with something like what happens to the crew after they get to the other world. Some of them should die on the way there, at least one or two. Maybe Luigi or James. What do you think? I don't know. Think about all these details. There's no rush, okay? Oh, the file is going on Word 2000. If you don't have Office 2000, let me know, and I'll send it in Word 97. A big hug from your friend Artur. The Mary Celeste file he sent me reminded me of the mystery of Saint Eulalia. The characters were as evasive as the story, with super long paragraphs of philosophical, non-explanatory ranting about life, death, and God that reminded me of his usual emails. What had I gotten myself into? I was terrified. Of the 80 pages he sent, 12 were about a wise old man who invited him for tea, and after a long philosophical conversation about death, handed him an old sachet envelope containing the truth of what happened to those aboard the Mary Celeste. But Artur didn't elaborate in any of the pages about the acquired knowledge he received from the old man. He described Captain Briggs as a man of high morals, and his faithful wife was devoted only to him. He had forgotten to mention their 2-year-old Sophia that was traveling with him. Everybody was happy, and everybody got along great while going about the ship, discussing the mysteries of life and talking about the weather and how nice and calm the days were, until one night they awoke to some strange sounds that he couldn't describe, and that's where he stopped. Now, Arturo lived in Portugal, and I was in the extreme west side of Oregon. I knew it was a coward's way out, but once I read his manuscript, I had no intention of going any further with our pen-pal relationship. It was one thing to write emails, and another to write a whole book. I told my son, Ralph, the dilemma I faced, and he said, just finish the story and don't worry about what he wrote. Well, it was easier said than done. How could I write the end to a story that didn't exist? After a week of not answering Artur's emails, not sleeping well, and being stressed out, I decided to grab the bull by the horns. So what if it was going to be a challenge? Life was a challenge. And I was ready to take on the project, but needed permission to make changes starting from the very beginning. He wrote back, I trust you as my co-author. Well, from that day on, I still wrote to Paula and Artur, but my emails were short and only once a week. My early hours in the morning were spent with the Mary Celeste, and the rest of the day treating patients and office work. I also had met someone, and the precious gift of romance had entered my life. A year later, September 20th, 2001, that's basically 22 years ago, the Mary Celeste manuscript was completed, in Portuguese, of course. I copied it into a floppy disk, remember those, the floppy disks? And I mailed it to Artur. After several emails asking him to let me know if he had received the disk and not getting a response, except for short emails about his daily experiences with traveling to Spain. So I resent the manuscript as an attachment with an email. Still, I got no response. And I figured he didn't like what I had written, and instead of letting me know how disappointed he felt, he had decided to ignore me. 3 months later, Arthur let me know in a matter-of-fact way about our book being in his hands, but he had been too busy to read it. The reason he had not responded. Mid-January of the following year, 2002, he wrote that he had finally read it and was surprised. I had not incorporated the character of the old man that he had told me about, who had provided him with the story of the Mary Celeste. He was too busy to take care of it and was on the way to Colombia to meet a woman he had met on the internet. The one he met in Spain had not worked out. He would get back to me when he returned. There wasn't a single positive or even negative word of acknowledgement about the writing I had done. I decided to ignore his request to do any further writing. As co-authors, he needed to start doing his own part. If he wanted the old man in the story, he could go ahead and write it himself. Time moved on, and the emails between Arthur and me became sporadic. I felt that the Mary Celeste had been lost forever in his hands, just like the music I had written for his lyrics that he never acknowledged. Late April 2003, because a lot of people ask me, how long did it take to write this book? Okay. So, late April 2003, I let Arthur know that I was getting married and going to Portugal for a honeymoon in September. I wrote, I look forward to meeting you and your new wife from Colombia. And since you told me about your plans to have the book published in May, I added a little hint, I look forward to seeing our book in print. A month later, I received an email from Arthur. You won't believe how busy I've been. Yes. Just want to let you know the book was launched and it was a huge success. Many of my political friends attended the event. I sent you a copy of the book by mail weeks ago, but it looks like you did not receive it. Well, in relation to the book, I had told you a long time ago, I intended to use our names, yours and mine, as authors, but I found out it can't be done because of taxes, since you are not a resident of Portugal. I would have to register you as a contributor, and as such, you would be obliged to make yearly declarations of monies received, and that would be complicated and embarrassing. Therefore, I had to opt to put my name only, but inside, I made an author's dedication to your encouraging friendship. I immediately sent a copy of his email to Paula and followed up with a call to the Portuguese Society of Authors in Lisbon, Portugal, and read his email to them. I was devastated to find out that Arthur's excuses for not using my name as co-author were false. They wanted his name, where did he live, and they were going to make sure to remove all the books out, and we were going to get to him. And then I also got a fax from Paula, who had found a lawyer who was willing to represent me and charge Arthur with plagiarism. 2 weeks later, I received a copy of Mary Celeste in Portuguese. Mary Celeste, a verdadeira história, Arthur Barros. Okay, with a dedication inside the book. So I decided I needed help. I mean, I was so confused. I mean, I had never heard of anybody doing that to someone else that had been writing to each other for years and years. So lucky for me, Danny, my brother-in-law, and a child psychologist was in town. I shared with him Arthur's deceit. I felt betrayed, confused, and like I said, I didn't know how to proceed. And Danny said, you need to evaluate what's most important to you and follow your heart. I thought about it for about 2 minutes, and that was enough for me. I was going to Portugal for a honeymoon, not to start legal procedures towards someone that had done me wrong. So I wrote him a little email to Artur. I thought we were friends and trusted you. Instead, you lied and stole my work. Since the book is more important to you than our relationship, everything is over between us, including my intention of translating it into English. As of now, our friendship is over forever. An email arrived from him. I'm sorry, this is terrible what I've done to you. I've done this to other people. And I tell you what, I'll take all the books out of the bookstores. Just stay as my friend and forgive me. And can we still be friends? And I never answered back. 15 years passed since that happened. 15 years. Since we parted from it, from writing to each other in the book and so on. But the Mary Celeste never left me. It was always in back of my mind and right in here. It was alive right in here. And November 7, 2018, about 5 years ago, I experienced a most peculiar, vivid dream. I found myself standing by a waterfall where a small group of people dressed in white tunics gestured for me to cross the water and join them. A young woman with long dark hair and holding a boy's hand announced with a pleasant smile, "We're the people who traveled on the Mary Celeste. Would you like to come with us?" Funny how the mind works, even in dreams. But I suddenly remembered my mother saying that when one dreams about dead people, we should never follow them because they can keep you there forever. So I answered quickly, if you don't mind, I'd rather stay on this side. And I woke in a sweat. But the dream haunted me all day. But that evening, I purposely went to bed earlier. I was no longer scared. If anything, I was very excited about the possibility of seeing them again. And it took me a while to fall asleep, and then it happened. I stood by the waterfall, once again, as if that were the front door to their home. And it crossed my mind that I might be intruding, and I was about to leave when from the same group I had met the night before, a man and a woman stepped forward and introduced themselves as Captain Briggs and his wife Sarah. They looked quite different from the way I had imagined them originally. The few solemn black and white pictures left behind had not done them justice. They were beautiful, healthy, joyful people. "You're alive!" I clapped my hands, and a smile from the little girl next to them made me feel ecstatic. "And this place I once described is not my imagination. It does exist." And I crossed to the other side. They had been the ones that had brought me over. And before parting, Captain Briggs said, "Think of our collaboration as a personal gift for keeping us alive in your heart all this time, and now in the minds of your readers. Sarah and I will make sure to project to you the images of our past. Just have fun writing the true story of the Mary Celeste." I awoke and couldn't get back to sleep. It was 5 in the morning. 2 hours later, I was sitting in front of my computer in the office. A soft tune played over our sound system. My fingers typed, "Mary Celeste," and I waited patiently. Then, like a bird looking down from high above, my vision opened like a wide-angle lenses, and I saw the Mary Celeste anchored at an old pier, and I was there. I would like to add just a little something else to that, because that was the preface to the book, okay? I would like to see how you feel about it, if you feel the same way as I do. That everything we do in life, bad or good, can cause a profound ripple effect. Do you agree on that? Okay. Because Artur's wrongdoing 22 years ago is what introduced me to Mary Celeste. But the ship was not just a ghost ship story. Captain Briggs and Sarah took me back to the mid-1800s to Marion, Massachusetts, where he and Sarah grew up, and they were childhood sweethearts. I was introduced to President Lincoln's political maneuvers, the Civil War, the fight against slavery, and the ongoing injustices against Native Americans. But it was also a time of inventions, like the steam engine, believe it or not, that's when it started. The steam engine, the can opener, the stapler, the safety pin that we take for granted, and toilet paper. But toilet paper, well, that invention was a complete failure, by the way, in the late 19th century. No one was going to pay 50 cents for 500 small little sheets, right? So one could use the whole Farmer's Almanac for 4 cents, okay? So I crossed the Atlantic Ocean in the Mary Celeste and watched how hard was a sailor's job. A lot of muscle raising the sails, climbing and pulling, coiling up the rigging, washing down, scrubbing and swabbing the decks, greasing and varnishing and painting, and a lot more than that, okay? I also witnessed the crew and the passengers struggle for survival. And sometimes I held my breath, waiting to see what was going to happen next. I must confess, when I first heard about the Mary Celeste from her tour, I figured pirates had killed them, okay? But after doing extensive research on the internet and reading several books, watching some documentaries, including the 1935 horror film Mary Celeste, The Phantom Ship, I changed my mind. Let me tell you why, for those familiar with Johnny Depp as a pirate. Okay? That's Hollywood pure entertainment, okay? Pirates are bad people. They are bad. You don't want to be in a ship and have a pirate come on board, okay? Pirates kill and steal. And when the ship, the gracious Captain Morehouse, found the Mary Celeste, nothing on board was missing. Clothing, jewelry, Sarah's sewing machine that she took with her, her melodeon, the food provisions, the 1,701 wood barrels of denatured alcohol untouched. I mean, what kind of pirates would kill everyone and not steal at least 1 barrel of alcohol? It doesn't make sense, right? And others believe that, backed up by the movies and some books, was the possibility that the crew drank the denatured alcohol and went crazy killing each other. But like I said, all the wood barrels were found untouched and no signs of struggle anywhere in the ship. Believe it or not, a few mentioned the Bermuda Triangle. Now, everybody knows that the Bermuda Triangle is on this side of the United States, not by the Portuguese islands, right? Some mariners, in at least one documentary, mentioned a water spout or a sea quake that forced them to abandon ship. If that was true, unstable items on board the ship would have not stayed put as the ship twirled around. Things like pots and pans and dishes, they would have scarred all over. And the breakfast about to be served, like toast and eggs, they would have not been able to remain on the table where they were found. So what's left? What do you think of my dream when I met Captain Briggs and Sarah? You're just as astounded as I was when I found out what happened. Okay, so I must ask a question, since you're not asking me a question. Do you believe in aliens? Do you think it was aliens? Has any of you seen any UFOs, any personal experience? Oh, I see a hand up there. Yes? Well, you know, I'm gonna say yes. Okay, go ahead. So can you tell us what happened with the UFO? No, okay. Anything else? Mm-hmm. Well, this is the way I look at it. Many of us have seen UFOs, maybe 1% of the people that are here. but they've seen or heard of someone being on UFO. We've heard of the Roswell. You wrote about the Roswell case where they tried to hide that one of their UFOs had been stricken down. And okay, the thing about aliens is that, do you truly believe that we are ready to meet with them? I mean, why would they want to meet us? I mean, their technology and their level of knowledge is so high. Okay, okay. And anybody else? Okay, so what happened in here when this was written is that the way I feel is that we do not respect Earth, our home, or each other's lives. I mean, let's face it. And when I say we, I don't mean us here. We do that already, and I know that from knowing you all. But the average people, okay? So when Sarah questions Turrell, one of the elders, as to why they don't help us with their immense knowledge, Turrell says, we have done that many, many times. We have sent messengers to spread the word of love. And you know what happened to them? We provided scientists with the knowledge for better living conditions in impoverished countries. And that knowledge was used for profit. We showed, by inspiration, how to grow a better crop, how to create transportation without causing pollution. But they prefer to profit from it. We have sent doctors to teach holistic care, but the pharmaceutical companies prefer to keep sickness under their control. No, they do not want to meet us. They are quite busy with their interplanetary voyages. The reason we do see the UFOs, because they got places to go and things to do in life, their lives. Okay. They're not going to meet us until mankind becomes humankind. Then they will try and meet us and meet our leaders. Until that happens, they're not ready to talk, okay? Now the good news. Since the elders' time and technology is so advanced that they know what's in the future for us if they don't intervene in our behalf, they are presently making plans to see if they can help us before the year 2050. Believe me, we are not the only ones here. Take a look on the internet. The images of James Webb Space Telescope. Have you seen any of you? Yeah. Okay. It is the largest optical telescope in space. When you see the galaxy cluster SMACS 0723, that really took me like, wow. Okay. I am sure you will reassess the possibility that we are definitely not the only ones in this universe.
I'm just curious, you were mentioning this. I'm just curious how many members of our audience either think they've seen a UFO, or I know somebody who has. And if they would know that in 1947 in Portland there were sightings all over Portland in 1947.
That's a very good question. Very good question. Do you? Should she come up here with a mic? Hold on, because otherwise you won't be on it.
Just going to say that my parents, who I'm first generation, and they kept their mouths shut, but they told me many times they'd been driving across, I think, central Washington, and there was no doubt in their minds that they saw something unrecognizable in the sky that looked more like some sort of a spaceship that you would read about. And they both just looked at each other and said, we will never tell anybody we saw this, but they told me that later. So while I haven't had the experience, there's no reason they would have said that to me. So I have to believe that's at least a possibility.
Anybody else? Okay. A lot to think about, believe me. Okay, so we've come to the conclusion there are other forms of life, correct? It's just that we need to start looking into the stars. And there's a Pine Mountain Observatory in Bend and the Oregon Observatory in San River. If you guys want to take a look and go like, oh my gosh, this is amazing, totally amazing. But anyway, after I got acquainted with Captain Briggs and Sarah and the others' aspirations for humankind, my intentions are to propose, and I know this sounds pretty heavy what I'm going to say, I intend to propose to the United States Congress a once-a-year Humankind Day. There is already, because I already checked, there is already a Be Kind to Humankind Week. Supposedly an annual worldwide celebration of kindness that is observed from August 25th to August 31st. Their mission statement is, this week is a time for us to reflect on what we can do to make this world a better place. A whole week of kindness? I don't think that's going to happen. I mean, it's just that we are not programmed. I mean, that means we'd have to give up on all vices to show this type of kindness. And let me share with you the kind of kindness that I see in one day. And tell me if I'm asking too much. For that one day, all wars stop. No killing for one day. Pharmaceutical companies provide for one day life-saving meds like insulin to people that can't afford it. Politicians on that day are required to speak the truth about themselves and refrain from making up lies about their opponents. On that day, hospitals and doctors will treat patients at no charge. One day, that's all we're asking for. One day, not a whole week. Nobody's going to do it, trust me. These are just a few ideas, and I bet the elders would be impressed with humankind and feel we are worth saving if they saw us doing something in that magnitude. So I hope that when you read this book, you will no longer have any doubts about what happened to the passengers and crew of the Mary Celeste. Thank you. And now, if you have any questions, I'm still open for it.
Did Arturo make any money on his version or his Mary Celeste book?
I don't know, because I never spoke to him after that. I mean, that was, you saw the size.
I'm thinking in terms of damages for you.
No, because for 15 years, I stopped even thinking about it. I mean, it was inside my mind and my heart, the whole thing about the Mary Celeste, but I wasn't going to go any further with it. It's just like, it kind of damaged my trust in people, and I didn't see the point of it. I am sending him a copy. I am sending him a copy of it.
With a dedication to it?
Yes, yes. Actually, that is the dedication I'm sending is an honest dedication, because if he hadn't done that, I would not have done what I'm doing now. See, like I said before, it's like everything we do is like a ripple. Sometimes it goes good, sometimes it goes bad. And even when I think of the UFOs, I've never seen a UFO, but a lot of people have seen them, and they are there. Like I said, don't give up looking by being different, by becoming that person that you're proud to be.
Have you been keeping track of the battle going on in the news between the Pentagon and skeptics like Midwest and other people like that? Say there's nothing to it, it's just hot air and weather balloons and Earth and the sun.
Oh, sorry, maybe I should. It's hard to hear all the way from back there.
I was just going to ask if you're familiar with what's going on within the news cycle these days with the Pentagon and Midwest and a bunch of people who are arguing about the existence of UFOs 70 years on now, and we're still arguing about it.
I I am not familiar. The only thing that I'm familiar is what happened when I wrote this book. I know it's a historical fiction, but to tell you the truth, when I think about it, it's not a fiction to me. It's very real. Some of the people that have read this book said the same thing. These characters are so real. They are real. It's just that I don't know if we are ready to open up to what's going on. I mean, one of the examples, I wasn't even going to go into that, but AI. Look what we're doing with this new toy. What humanity is doing with the new toy, AI. Where are we going to go from there? Because we are not ready to meet the people, the elders. I shouldn't say people, because when I think of people, I think of humanity. We need to be more humankind to be part of this whole universal universe, you know.
I was wondering, since you had the two dreams about the captain and his wife Sarah, have you had any further dreams or encounters with them in the dream world? And if so, have they given their, I guess, approval of your version of their reality?
Yes, absolutely. When I say dreams, those were dreams that I had with them. But what I find is that even I'm speaking now, we are all being informed on how. Let me deviate a little bit. We are their siblings. I don't know if you know that. I see Emily shaking her head. Thank you. We are their siblings. We are the naughty siblings. Okay? We were supposed to be helped when we were being put in this planet. I go further into that in the book. We were supposed to be saved. And when I mean saved, I mean to become back to humankind. And so when you or I say something that is good or profound and is helping somebody, they are guiding us. You don't have to go to bed and dream about it. Every time you do something good or something that's going to be helpful with humanity, that you are actually giving and not taking. How many of you are familiar with Carl Sagan? Okay. How did he describe the Earth? A little blue dot. A little tiny, itsy blue dot in the universe. And, okay, in that little tiny blue dot, man is fighting over a part of that little tiny blue dot because they still want a part of that little tiny blue, you know, see, and size is all different to everybody. Some of these brothers and sisters of ours, they're bigger than us, and some of them are smaller. Some are almost invisible. Some of them are pure light. And I was just lucky to have had that happen to me. Any other questions? Okay, my sequel, right? And I have been asked about that. My sequel is, I have a purpose. I am going back to, I found out I have to go through the United States Congress to make that change. And all my efforts is going to be to start that one day of humankind, not a whole week. And that's my sequel right now, to do that. We need to prove ourselves, because the way things are going on Earth are not good. I mean, we can look at the positive side, and there's a lot of good, matter of fact, I don't remember off the top of my head, but they actually gave us a percentage of how many humankind people are on Earth already. That's why they're helping us. But imagine if the whole world came together doing that, what it would be like. They'd be right at our next door, right? We go home and there they are waiting for you to say, this is awesome, let's go do something about it. But, okay, I'm deviating a little bit. I like that. I love you, Bob. And Emily knows I'm saying that kindly.
Would this be universal? What day of humankind? Would it be universal?
Universal, yes.
Universal.
Universal.
And how in the world could one person from each spot in the human universe speak for the people that they represent? One person in Australia speaking for all of Australia, that they want to have a one day of human kindness.
That's what I'd like to do, make it world known. Put them in, cause some kind of embarrassment to them. Like when I was saying about the politicians, make the politicians be embarrassed that how dare they not tell the truth. One day out of the year. I mean, it's not asking too much. You know, like not killing for one day out of the year. How to get it doing is once it starts, it's back to that ripple effect. But when you say universe, it's too far out. Let's start here on Earth to do that. Like tomorrow, out of the goodness of your heart, you help somebody. You don't even have to tell them you're helping them. You can just give to someone that needs your help. And it could be all kinds. It could be walking somebody across the street. Or you don't have to give them money. What you're doing is you teaching them. You're helping them to grow. You know what I'm saying? It's not like giving stuff, because then we are spoiled brats. It's not taking it. Yeah, no, we don't take. We give and we share. And I find our health is, I mean, humanity needs food, and the food, you know what's happening to the food, right? We need water to survive, and look what's happening to the water. The air, what are we doing to the air? Okay, even shelter. So these are the 4 things that we need in order to live, in order to survive. And if we are destroying all that, we got nothing. Humanity is gone. AI will take over. Yes.
Out of the blue, and if someone in Tucumcari, New Mexico, makes the same act as someone in Mexico,
yes,
then it doesn't matter.
It does.
They
Yes,
are the same.
exactly. So the United States president does something outstanding. Like he says, "Okay, this is the law of the land," and yeah, and then the president in Mexico says, "Whoa, I better do something so the people love me too." And that's how it starts. Who cares how the cause starts? It starts the rippling effect of causing that. Okay, well, I think we are done for today. And if you're interested in seeing the book, I'll sign them here. And my granddaughter is taking care of the whole, she's my assistant. And thank you very much.